Welcome to the SMB Community Podcast with hosts Amy Babinchak, James Kernan, and Carl Polachek. Produced by Kernan Consulting and for the international MSP community. We are dedicated to making every IT professional a successful IT professional. Hey everybody, welcome back to the SMB Community Podcast. This is James Kernan with Kernan Consulting, and I'm back with my good friend Amy Babinchak. Hey Amy, good morning.
Good morning, James. Good morning.
Yeah, so how are things up in Michigan?
Things up in Michigan are hot, but yeah. Other than that, it's doing great. You know, it's still summertime. We're still doing our summertime pattern of going out to the boat on weekends, so it's nice.
Yep. We're in about the same pattern. It's hot. I think it's supposed to be 101 today with a heat index close to 110. So that makes it tough to coach football.
Oh my God!
And we got practice tonight. I'm a little worried about that. Lots of water, I guess. So.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's going to be. I feel bad for your little guys.
Yeah. Well, hey, we got a lot to talk about today, so let's just kind of dive into it. We've got an interesting question of the week, and the question that actually came in was, can you share some examples of some big wins when you had your MSP? So it's interesting. I mean, you came out of this fresher than I did, so I'll let you go first, but share some examples of big wins or strategic wins for your company.
Yeah, so, we never had a great, big, huge jump in revenue from landing, that one amazing client. We never had that type of big win.
Yeah.
What this reminded me of is when I first started my business, I just hired my first employee. And at that point in time, you're scrambling for money, and because you just made 100% jump. That first step's a doozy. Right. And so I get a call. And this, I guess, is why it's good to answer your phone and don't say no to things. Try them out and see what happens. I got a call from a company that said, hey, we're in California. We have this rack of systems in Michigan. We need some hard drives swapped out. All you have to do is show up, swap out the hard drives, call us up. We'll make sure it's good. And then if they're working good, you're done. If they're not, we'll swap back in the old ones. We ship back the old drives. That's it. That's the whole job. We're going to pay you $50 a hard drive. And there's going to be, at least 4. So it's a $200 stop. So I'm like, okay, I'll go do that. And so, plus it's brain dead simple, right? And no, I'm not going to be there very long for $200. So I'll go and do that.
Yep.
That led to doing more and more of those jobs, and turned out that it was a gig for Comcast, and I didn't know it. So Comcast was actually shipping me advertising their commercials, right, for the local market, and so they needed to have them streaming locally is how they were doing it, and they had these racks of servers stashed in the backs of other businesses. People were renting out space. It was kind of a weird thing. It'd be like in the back of a printer shop, in the back of a small manufacturing shop, in the whatever, there'd be this rack. Then I started, then they were like, oh, we need you to swap out this server. And the server itself was huge. And it was basically it held like 24 hard drives. It was quite huge at the time. And this is what I was like, we need you to swap out the whole thing. And, they told me what they were going to pay for that. And I'm like, okay, I'll go do that. Well, when it got there, I saw that on the label, it was by a company called Equus in California.
Wow.
And unbeknownst to me, Equus is who made all of Netflix's equipment. They custom built these things and shipped them out. So now I was doing some work for Equus. I got to know Equus, and I'm like, wow, if Netflix trusts them to build their networking environment, maybe I should too. And that turned into a 15-year business relationship where I didn't continue in the drive swapping business as we grew. We stopped doing that. But I developed that relationship with Equus, and it became a really close one. We did some events to promote my business with, since I started using their servers. We invited them to things. They came, they helped promote us. It really turned into a good business relationship. So although it started off as a $200 deal, I consider that to be a big win because we developed a great business relationship out of it.
Yep. Oh, that's exciting. I love it. And the cool thing, Amy, that you said is it started with you picking up the phone.
Yeah.
It was a call,
And not saying no, right? Like it's a little out of the ordinary, but it's a quick $200 at the moment when I need a quick $200, and it grew.
Yeah, I have a similar story that was a project that ended up coming in, became a recurring project. But, I'm a small MSP in San Diego, Networks Plus, and it was my first sales rep that I hired. His name was Will. He answered the phone. A call came in and said, hey, we want to interview you. We're looking for a certified small business there to do some government work. We need to put some engineers on site, and you need to be a Dell partner. And he's like, okay, well, let me get the owner on the phone, and, you could interview him. So he took a message, and he must have come over to my desk 3 times that morning. Hey, have you called him back yet? Have you called him back yet? Have you called him back yet? And I'm like, oh, I'll call him this afternoon. I'll get to it when I get to it. Well, ended up calling, interviewed. We had a couple quick interviews, and I didn't really think a whole lot of it, but they said they needed a couple full-time techs on site. Well, a month, maybe 5 weeks go by. I haven't heard anything from them. And then a Thursday night, I get a phone call, and it said, hey, and it was like 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. They said, hey, Monday morning, we need 4 full-time engineers that have this skill set down at a military base, at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Monday. I'm like, oh, great. I have one work to find 4 full-time people,
Jeez.
who get up early. Yeah. It's like, well, we did. We found 4 really good people and got them plugged in. And that 4 people, grew to 10 people, to 20 people. And we started plugging people in, and that contract grew to us having hundreds of engineers on site for this contract in 22 states. So it really was a lucrative deal for us, and it was another form of monthly recurring revenue. It was really just, engineers as a service, or really staffing. So we did project work, and that was we did that for about 3 years, and that really helped catapult my growth. And then there was a fun one that came in. It's kind of an interesting one, but how many of you get something in the mail, good old fashioned mail? It's a big RFP that got mailed to my office. I looked at it. It was a big project, and it was the San Diego Padres new ballpark that was going into downtown San Diego. So it was an RFP, it was a big project. They wanted a bunch of cabling and network infrastructure. And I was like, well, we're too small to do all of this, but why don't I subcontract someone? And so I went to the biggest cabling shop in San Diego, and we subcontracted with them, and we did all the network infrastructure. Our proposal had them doing all the cabling, and we went through several interviews and we won that contract. So when we won that contract, I had 8 employees. It was really funny, 8 employees. And we kind of went from a nobody to a somebody, because all the network infrastructure was all Cisco. It was about a $1.5 million deal. And then all the cabling was done by this contractor, and we made a little override on that. But that was a big deal for us. And, great marketing. But again, that was, how many of you bid on an RFP that comes in the mail? Most people would just throw that in the garbage. And you never know until you kind of think outside the box. So those were a couple fun examples that we wanted to